Hail, hail, and welcome to A Celtic World. We are a YouTube channel dedicated to the Celtic worldwide support. On this show, on this channel, it gives us a little bit of a North American perspective on things. So far, it's been all American, but we got to start getting some Canadian perspective. So I think when Chris and I started doing this program over the summer, and we're actually up to our 10th episode now, which is crazy. I know we weren't thinking it was going to be like a weekly bitch fest. It has been the last few weeks, but I think it's been helpful because this thing is starting to have like them COVID season vibes, and I know that brought out a little malaise for me that season with Celtic. So to be able to talk it out, more on here has been good for me and hopefully everyone else. So I think on last week's show we were able to bring a little bit of positivity at the end. Maybe not really about how things are going at the moment with the club, but more in remembering our roots with the club and why we support them and all. So hopefully we can do a little more of that tonight. So we'll try to stick to that same format. So tonight show we have, as always, my partner in crime, Chris. Chris, what's going on?
Well, living the dream, baby.
We also have Sean Finn from Pittsburgh CSC. Sean's making his fourth appearance already out of our 10. So welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Always enjoy it.
Yeah. And then last but not least, we have a special guest joining us from the Huddle Breakdown podcast, James, another Pennsylvania guy. Welcome, James.
Thank you. I'm jealous of Sean. He's in the Hall of Fame already, batting 400.
So I think like last week, I think we kind of just need to dive right in. Like the Kairat game in Kazakhstan was just fucking brutal. And I mean, this one might have been more painful because it was just, I just feel like nothing happened. It was almost like the two clubs got together and said, like, you cool with a 0-0 draw? and they took each other up on it. So I don't know. Chris, how was your feelings watching the game? Well, first of all, how was it 6 a.m. kickoff for you guys?
Well, truth be told, the 6 a.m. kickoff went and gone, and I waited until about 9 o'clock when I was on that second cup of coffee to turn the match on. So, I had really positive vibes going into it. I'm like, okay, we're gonna put something together. We're gonna do something. We're gonna try to win the football match. And it was the lack of intent. It was a lack of intent anywhere and everywhere. The passing was sloppy. We still couldn't do the final third balls. I mean, it was a sloppy. It was a sloppy match any way you cut it. So, it just, I feel almost that we're lucky that it ended in a 0-0 draw, to be honest. We were there for the taking for them for, a good bit of the match. And I don't know, man. The ship had sailed and we were adrift. So that's about all I can say about it.
No, agreed. It was a hard watch. We did basically nothing for the entire 90 minutes. I know I was watching at the Plow and the Stars, and luckily it was decent crowd, good company. The Guinness was good at 7 a.m. But it was a hard watch. Wow, I was not expecting it to be that bad. I was worried about how things would go. I thought just with the way we've been playing, it would be a tough game at Ibrox, but not what I expected at all. James, how did you watch the match?
Where I live, I'm a regular member of Underwear CSC. So I sat in my underwear and watched the game. Routine: get up, make coffee for the household, and then question for me is whether my 83-year-old Peruvian father-in-law who lives with us makes his way up to watch a game with me or not. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. He did not on this occasion, so it was a solo effort. But I have to say, Shawnee, I'm drinking an IPA in your honor. We usually record our stuff, late morning, early afternoon, my time. So for me to be able to enjoy an adult beverage while doing something, I'm going to enjoy this. It's only going to be one though. I don't know how your constitution handles this stuff.
Yeah, I don't usually go more than one or two, especially on the weeknights. But well, what did you think of the match? I mean, I think we all could probably have a similar perspective, but
yeah, it was like a Floyd Mayweather pay-per-view title fight. So just a letdown and kind of just an awful spectacle. There just wasn't much in it, and to your point, it was almost like a Cold War, like both teams just kind of saying, okay, we're not gonna cross the halfway line much. We're just gonna fight it out in the middle of the pitch and not really create much. So, I think it's not the worst result by any stretch of the imagination. Like if you kind of step back macro, a normal season drawing a game at Ibrox is not a big deal. I think within the broader context is the more concerning part. Wasn't the first game that we've struggled to get great chances, that kind of thing. It's been really a trend since spring last season. So some of the bigger trends are the concern rather than that game as a one-off for me anyway.
No, agreed. I'll go again. I in my head, I said, like a draw wouldn't be bad at all, but I don't see why Rangers would go in with that mindset. Like I said, I don't jokingly I'm saying they got together and agreed on a draw ahead of time, but I feel like that was an important match to get 3 points for them. But so that's probably why you can go in, like you said, looking at it from a macro approach, like the result is probably fine for us. It is more the how it all came about and like just the struggles to get anything going that don't seem to be going away.
Yeah, I'd say the only thing that, because I agree with you going into the game, that was certainly my expectation. I think with some retrospection, it was probably a priority for them to not be a complete disaster in defense. It's because they have been in the opening part of the season. So in a perverse way, I wouldn't even be surprised if they're somewhat content with just because they didn't really concede much. I mean, they were completely inept going forward, but that's nothing new.
Right. Sean, how was the Pittsburgh crowd on Sunday morning?
It was really great. I think we probably had 35, maybe close to probably 35, 40, somewhere in that neighborhood. I feel bad, especially on matches like that, when we get people that don't normally come to every match, and then they show up on a derby morning and have to sit through that. It's not a great advertisement,
No.
for football in general, but everybody had a good time. We made the most of it. I think that I agree. I think, Chris, you said, it's starting to remind you a little bit of the COVID season. It's starting to kind of remind me a little bit of Rodgers' third season before he left. That extremely tedious, boring, kind of just no thought into what you're actually doing on the pitch. Guys that are usually super solid for us, McGregor, CCV, Maeda, all kind of just dropping off. And is that because they don't, well, not in McGregor's case, but do they not want to be here anymore? I think it just leads into so many, different questions that we need to ask of how business is run in general at Celtic. And it was kind of like a sort of a nothing match. Those are the matches that, you know, people want, you know, the world wants to see. That's the game. That's the pinnacle of Scottish football. And when you put out a product like that, I mean, whew, not a good advertisement.
No, definitely not. I just feel like, and you're right, it is becoming, it's a hard watch, but I feel like tactically it's, you know, a lot of the passing back, and it's just CCV to Scales to CCV over to Ralston, and like nothing's happening. The midfield totally unavailable. But then you're just starting to see even like, I think, hesitancy from some guys who are usually trying to make a play, like Hatate. Like I just think of, he had the one, I think it was in the second half, toward the middle of the second half, got the ball like a little bit right to the top of the circle, had a lot of space, and like normally that's, he's just gonna, you know, fire that on goal right away. He had like a little bit of a slight hesitancy, like, and I think that's just totally threw him off, and he just fired it over, like ended up shooting it, but fired it over the bar. And like I just feel like, is it like this fear of, and maybe like I don't know if it's Brendan put it into them, a fear of losing the ball and at every point of the match, and you're not able to then, you know, make that cutting pass that he normally would. So it's just been a frustrating watch. I don't know where they go to. Even like I feel like Engels was kind of playing some long balls here and there that, but then he ends up pulling him off it when to bring on replace him, and I thought he was probably better than Hatate and McGregor on the day. So I don't know what the answer is. Do you see that, Chris? Any of that like hesitancy
Well,
on the side?
yeah, there's an old, and I don't know who the original author was, but it's that you're not trying to win the game, you're trying to not lose the game, right? And so there's already a bias in your own head when you're trying not to lose instead of trying to win. And you know, the sideways passing, the lack of intent, trying to put balls across the top, going forward, using the midfield, whatever it is, like you do that when you're connected and you've got an intent behind it. And I think that's what we've lost. I think that's what we're running into, whether, you know, whatever has happened with the squad in general, but there seems to be just that lack of intent, and I don't know if it comes from Brendan Rodgers. I don't know if it comes from the squad or Callum McGregor or whatever. But like, you should be up for playing in Ibrox against them. Period. I mean, anybody that puts that strip on should have that intent of, I'm going to go out there and win this. And I just, you know, the whole match, I didn't see anything from anybody that was, you know. So yeah, you're exactly right. It's the hesitancy. It's the complacency with the passing. It's just, I don't know, man. It's so terrible to watch. It really is. Just like Sean, you said it perfect. Sean Finn, that it's, you know, it's a really hard sell for people that don't understand the sport. Like for the four of us, like Celtic is like breathing air, right? Like I'm going to watch them whether, you know, we win another game this year or not, right? So that's, I guess that's all I'm saying is that if you're trying to put this into the club, right, and you want to have this product that you can bring to people and say, this is who the fuck we are. That match wasn't it, and it should have been. It should always be. A match against them in Ibrox should always get you the best out of those players, but we didn't see any of that.
No, I agree. James, like you on your show, on the Huddle Breakdown, you got more of like that statistical and tactical breakdown. What did you see, like anything tactically that you feel like Brendan is? I know I heard you talking about the Kyrat game, how he just basically totally blew it and got out coached by Kyrat's manager. But what did you see on Sunday from Brendan?
Nothing much new. I mean, he did seem to try to tweak it at halftime from a formation perspective, but not really tactics. And these things are always complicated because it's not a, kind of linear conversation. But I think we had a major problem last season with organized mid blocks where they wouldn't high press. They just left our center backs have the ball, man mark our midfield. And the way that we combated that was to go some over the top, counterattack. But as importantly, a lot of our chance creation comes off of the counter press. So when we lose the ball, we win it back. And I think the biggest surprise of the game, at least it was for me, was that Russell Martin adopted Ned ball. He went Barry Ferguson on us. He whipped out the Barry Ferguson on our ass unexpectedly. So they basically, and again, I kind of tip of the cap that I thought was smart, particularly given the mess that they've been building out from the back. One of their main problems has been just forking over chances to the opposition. So with them going direct, they basically nullified our ability to counterpress to a large degree. And what that meant with our, impotent front three, with the lack of that threat in behind other than Maeda, is we're just stuck with the same problem we had last season, which is a midfield that really is not good at getting off of man-to-man marking. So for a variety of reasons, and we can get into that, but it was like a complete paralysis of our ability to connect from, kind of the defensive third through the midfield into the attacking third. I mean, if you just look at the amount of time we spent against their rest defense in their defensive third, I mean, it was shocking how little. So, you look at the, people will look at the possession stats. I mean, almost all of that possession was either in our half or just a little bit inside their half. So, I don't think there was much. I think the frustration for me has been that we have a lot of misshapen pieces because of recruitment, and that I don't know if it's a hope and a prayer that Rodgers thought all of this was going to get resolved before the end of the window and they didn't want to change things up. But I mean, they've got to do something because you can't play this kind of game model that is heavily reliant on wide overloads, with wingers interchanging with the attacking eight with the fullback and try to pull opponents out wide to create space and have crappy wingers. I mean, you can't do that.
Right.
And then you have Anthony Ralston in for AJ, and Tierney looks like he's not the Tierney we thought we were getting, at least for now. Hopefully that's still to come. But so yeah, it's and that's not Engel's game. That's been an issue with him kind of persistently. He's not the guy that make those intricate wide overloads and do that dynamic triangle passing, that type of thing. So I'm waiting for a solution. I want to see something coming out of this international break, because if we line up 4-3-3 with the same freaking game plan and we just plug in, our new striker who seems to be on the same meal plan as our keeper. And I say that because my son's just started his freshman 15, I'm thinking, arriving at college. So talking about meal plans. So that's just going to drive me nuts. It's I think there has to be some structural changes in kind of the game model, so to speak. But we'll see. It's been odd to me the whole time. I've said this on our show a lot. Since Rodgers came back, it's almost like there's this like morphing between Brendan Rodgers and Ange Ball. And we've been so kind of stuck in, like I said, there's always these tweaks. He'll have one of the eights come in, drop in more, inverts one of the fullbacks some to get some help from McGregor in midfield. But generally speaking, it's not been very flexible. Whereas the rest of his career, he's been a tinkerer. He's been a guy who's changed formations. He's, gone 3 at the back intra-game, gone 4-4-2 diamond, like depending on what the opposition's doing, he's made changes, even game to game. And we've seen almost none of that this entire, 2+ seasons now. So I'm not holding my breath, even though I'm hoping, maybe irrationally now, that there will be a switch.
Yeah, same. I feel the same way, but like you said, hopefully take this time in the international break to kind of tinker with some things and kind of bed these new guys into the side. But even that, I think that's going to take time with the two new wingers. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not feeling good about things. I need to start feeling better about things by the end of this show.
Why we drink, Sean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Self-medicate.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think that, not to like continue the piling on here, but you look at the Belaquisha, who is he a winger? He played mostly in the midfield for Antwerp, right? At least recently.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's a winger, he's a left winger. You bring in this the Tunetki or whatever his name is. He's played almost entirely left wing. And then you have Jota, who is much better on the left, and then Maeda, who's much better on the left. Then you still have who? Forrest, because Yang is probably better on the left too. Yeah. I just don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just brainless stuff that, like you said, James. Like, unless he makes some sort of drastic, technical changes here, what are we going to do? There's guys that are not playing up to the same level they were last season. A lot of them. And you also have guys that, like you said as well, trying to be fitted into positions that they're not. It's not going to, optimize them, and then with this shambolic transfer business, I just where does it change? Where does it change? And I think to myself too. I'm like, okay, sure, we lost Kuhn, we lost Kyogo, I think, but were those guys like the be all end all of this team to make it succeed? I have to say no. But so what has changed so dramatically besides missing those two guys from last season when we were really rolling to this season, not only in just the level that these guys are playing at, but their attitudes, their hunger, whatever you want to say. So then that gets me thinking, okay, do these guys, are they sick? Are they tuning Brendan out? Do they not, do a lot of them not want to be there? Is it the same BS that happened, in the COVID season with, with Edouard, Ayer, Christie? They just down tools. I don't think these guys are downing tools per se, but they're not playing up to the level that they should be. And then, you have the extreme disappointment of losing out on the Champions League to that team is going to get annihilated in the Champions League. And if they don't, I'll hold my hands up, but there's no way that they're going to be able to run with any, like, their draw is like insane. It's like murderer's row. And then you have guys who didn't even bother to show up for a Champions League qualifier at Celtic Park to do the business there and play the B team in Kazakhstan. They had to make sure that they did the business there, and they showed no drive to do that either. I think a lot of that was down to Brendan, but like, you know, the players have to play on the pitch. So it's scaring me because like I see such a you know, a similarity to you know, going from like Rogers last season and that boring. I mean, it was turgid is a good word, but it's starting to get now. What is that? So how many years does he usually stay at a club before things start going to shit? 2, 3 at the most. So like I think this is going to be a shit sandwich if he doesn't earn his money, earn his, you know, notoriety as a world-class manager or whatever, and do something different. Because it like you said, James, like if he sticks to 4-3-3, we are cooked.
Well, and that the other thing is that even if, and I, you know, we talked about this last season on our show about, you know, when you force people to stay in a work environment that they don't want to be in, even if they're a good professional, let's say you get 98 or 99% effort, you know, just abstractly to just use a number. You know, if you have a number of those people that for their own individual reasons are all kind of at that, I mean, they're trying and they're doing their job, but it's not balls to the wall, run through a brick wall type of effort. We do not have the raw athleticism in the team, and that's been a huge problem. The intersection of size, speed, quickness, we just don't have it. So to me, when you start having pieces of this team now, maybe at 98%, 99%, and you know, some of it can be carrying injuries, and you know, like I think that's what it probably is with Tierney. I certainly wouldn't think he would be doing anything other than going all out. But when you have a bunch of those guys that already aren't quite at that European level athletically, when I say athletically, I mean raw athletics. You know, like Nygren's not a dynamic athlete. He's not, you know, someone where you know, as Rogers say, power and pace. And we sold one of the guys who probably was more of our raw athletes in Ida. I don't think he manifested it. It's been one of his problems in his career. He has a hard time translating that into productive, like footballing stuff. But you know, I don't think the guys that we added, I mean, the winger is quick and dynamic. He's kind of small. He's not gonna, you know, he's not elite European speed like Kuhn. He's going to be a clever, fun guy to watch. But so yeah, I think that's another issue is we still lack that kind of dynamic athleticism.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think, does that fall into kind of the board and management kind of small time selling us a little bit as a small time club that like, we're not going to be able to get that player who has all those attributes. Like we'll get the Nygren who, you know, is a little more skilled but doesn't have the speed, or you know, Ida's got the physicality but you know, lacks the touch. Like, where do we shell out that extra money and get that guy who brings all those attributes, like you say? Because I think you're right. Like right now I feel like we're slow in a lot of places. We're small in the back, and that's a terrible combination. Like, it hasn't hurt us yet. Like, I feel like, I mean, outside of just, we haven't, defensively, we've been pretty solid. We haven't given up much of anything in Champions League qualifying. We gave up nothing, and so far in the league. But there will come a time when like that size comes to haunt us, and because we're all, I mean, the last few years we were very susceptible on set pieces, corners, and stuff. Like Carter Vickers is great, hasn't been great really this year, but in the past. But he's very small for a center back, and like can be, you know, beaten in the air. Like Scales has been tough so far, and I mean, I think he was probably man of the match on Sunday for me, of a man of the poor match. So it is what it is.
And the league has gone insane from a size perspective. I mean, if anyone gets a chance, check out Dundee United, look at Kilmarnock. I mean, they're fielding like a mix. You guys will get the reference. The North American crew. It's like a bunch of tight ends playing. I mean, they're all like 6'5", 6'4", relatively robust guys. So yeah, I have a horrible vision of dropping points, particularly away at the narrower pitches, like at Tannadice, at Rugby Park, with long throws and, putting 6 guys in the box, all of which are taller than anyone we have. At least I'm not going to have nightmares of Greg Taylor marking one of them.
Yeah.
But that'll get replaced by somebody else.
Does Kilmarnock not have a 7-foot player?
I think he's 6'7".
Yeah, I'm like, Jesus.
Striker.
There was one guy. I think he played for somewhere in the more lower division who looked like he might be 7 foot, but he was terrible. Like
I was like, Jesus. Wow.
He's a striker, 6'7" striker.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like the Peter Crouch kind of mold, but probably can't play, but probably stronger. And those are the guys who haunt us all the time. Those like Ayunga from St. Mirren I feel like he's always terrorizing us, and so I don't know. I'm kind of so far so good in the league and defensively. So we'll see how that goes. I think we're just struggling to create chances a lot, which is the most frustrating. It's just a boring watch.
Well, just echo what Sean said about it was domestically. It was actually 2 seasons in Rogers' last tenure. So if you go back to even the 17-18 season, I mean, I think we only scored like 80 some goals, like low 80s in goals that season. Won the league with 82 points. I mean, it was, the European campaign was a little better, and that kind of, we finished 3rd and got to play in the knockout stage against Zenit. But yeah, so there was a lot of turgid games domestically during that season too. So, and that was the, Scott Brown dropping back in between the center backs and that horseshoe of death. So this is just a different shaped version of the horseshoe of death.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on from the disaster of the weekend to the disaster of the transfer window. But before I do that, let me just play a quick subscribe clip.
Celtic fans are everywhere, even here in China. Billions of us are subscribing to A Celtic World. You should too.
So
billions. That's impressive.
And I think this is the transfer window has probably been the most frustrating thing. We've talked about it the last few weeks, and it all plays into kind of our lack of success in the Champions League qualifying playoff tie against Kairat Almaty, and then over the weekend against the Huns. It's just that whole, fail to prepare to fail. Like we never get ahead of the game in the transfer market. And in this, I feel like this year could have been the worst one. And you at least thought they would do, something along the lines of the Ida signing, like an $8 or $9 million player, and that might be all we get, maybe a loan signing. But we didn't even get that. Like going into before we got knocked out of the Champions League, we added a few pieces over the weekend, but nothing overwhelming. So I don't know, Chris, how was? I know, this was the first time I really didn't sit on my phone, hit refresh every 2 minutes on transfer day finishing up. But how about you?
There was something I read, and I don't know where I read it. It was somewhere on social media, and it was basically that we signed Ida and let him go before we replaced Kyogo and Kuhn, and something just kind of struck with me that That's exactly right. That's exactly what we did. We have not replaced Kyogo and Kuhn, and you know we can sit and talk about the people that we got in, and you know what their level of talent is or whatever. But for me, anyway, I feel like this is stuff that should have been done way earlier in the transfer window, right? We should have recognized these things beforehand and not gotten into the situation where we didn't qualify for the Champions League. I mean, it's just it's as simple as, right? If you've got, you know, Jota injured and you're signing nothing but left wingers, Sean Friend said it earlier. You've got to change something tactically. Like, what are you doing with all these people that are not playing in the same positions that they were playing before they came to Celtic? Like, nothing makes sense, and I don't know if it's that deals couldn't get done, you know, for whatever reason, monetarily speaking or whatever. But it's just the arrogance in which it happened. That's what makes everybody so upset and angry. You know, if somebody came out and said, "Oh, well, we don't have money to sign," what was that guy Dolberg that eventually went to Ajax? Everybody's thinking that he's going to sign, and then he doesn't, and then everybody's like, "Well, why not?" And like I read a thing today that was just like, "Yeah, he wanted to go back and play with his home club." Well, that would have been good information to have, not 72 hours ago, right? And these are just the same recurring themes where we it feels like we're just trying to scrape by, and I don't know, I don't know. I don't know all of the dynamics. I'm a country boy that lives in Tennessee. I am no way, shape, or form an expert in anything other than watching the Celtic Football Club and saying yay haw, right? So, but like, I don't know what goes on, but something needs to change because you've got players that should be coming in and they're not. Why?
No,
I don't know.
agreed.
I got to train.
Yes. So sticking a Jimmy V's comment up here, and it is kind of true. Like it is the three signings from before this week, I think, like Yamada, Inamura,
Poussey.
Yeah, Poussey weren't in the Europa League roster, which I mean, I guess I've liked Inamura so far, of the little you've seen of him. And I guess there is only a certain amount of spots you can have on that roster. But Yamada, I thought he was one of the few guys who actually showed something on Sunday that that he looked a little dangerous, looked strong and holding up play a couple times. That Dyson isn't good at that kind of thing. Ida was, okay at times, but I think he lacked the touch to be able to do it. James, how do you feel about like those three guys getting left off, or does that strike you? I know some people were saying like, "Oh, is that Brendan sending a message to the board that they're not his signings? He didn't put them on the side."
Yeah, I wouldn't rule out that being a part of it. I think the other part is, one of my pet peeves is the logical fallacy of appealing to authority. So people just assume because he's the manager that he knows what the hell he's doing. Universally, like omnipotently.
Yeah.
Some people. And I just, if you look at his career, he's had a material weakness in profiling players and understanding who should be playing where in his systems. And I think that's part of why he's not aged well at clubs, is that as he's gotten in his hands dirty, so to speak, in transfers in years 2 and 3, his best seasons are the ones that he just inherit other people's players that are already kind of ready-made. And the more he tinkers with players, the worse it gets. And I think that's a big part of it. Is that I just don't think he's particularly good at it. And I don't think he knows how to use those players either. So he didn't know how to use Ida, that's for sure. So in my opinion. So I've said it on our show, I'm a card carrying member, perhaps the president of the Inamura fan club. I think he has a, Liam Neeson in Taken level certain set of skills that a lot of people don't have, ability to create from deep. And, the vision, the passing just isn't that common. And I think there's always, particularly someone who's athletic like he is, relatively fast, relatively quick, very technically gifted, plays with his head up, and looks like a worker. And I saw that with the tape I watched on him in Japan. He's not some loafer coach. I mean, he was playing in a dreadful team in Japan. I mean, one of the worst defensive teams I've ever seen. And he didn't quit. He was always trying, always trying. So I think there's got to be a place for somebody with that toolkit, particularly domestically, particularly on Saturday, or there'll be Sundays now, unfortunately, when you're home to Falkirk or home to Dundee United, like a guy like that, I just can't imagine. And then Yamada is, Shin is a penalty box striker, and he's not anywhere near as, in my view, he's not anywhere near as gifted as like an overall footballer as Kyogo, but inside the 6 yard pipes and in that within 18 yards within the mouth goal of mouth, he can finish. He's very explosive in his movement. He's actually very good with heading the ball, which is counterintuitive given his stature, but I think he's probably much better than Ida at attacking headers and actually scoring them. But we have a manager who's fixated on having strikers drop deep as part of this whatever system that he's deploying, whether they're good at it or not. We'll see. Ichinano, whatever the hell, if he's in shape, we'll see if he can. Yeah, there we go. Kalechi. I love his name, by the way, overall. Promise. What a great name.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's probably better than what we've had in that aspect, dropping deep, but then he's not in the box that much. Like if you look at his history, I wrote about him today in my benchmarking exercise. Like he's not a penalty box striker. He's almost like a 10 a lot of the time in the right half space, which is where Nygren plays. So who the hell's going to be in the box to get on the end of balls? I don't know. Maybe it's going to be Balakwisha, who's supposed to be wing, but going to be an inverted winger. Maybe there's a big grand plan here, but I'm not seeing it yet. So yeah, I think they both could be very useful. I don't get it. How much of it's him just being pissed off because of how the club operated over the summer, and how much of it he's not particularly good at this part of managing. Probably, as with most things in life, it's probably some of both.
No, agreed.
Yeah.
In terms of, then I'm just going back to the guys we signed over the weekend. The Tunisian guy from Hammersby. I was practicing pronunciations before the show, and I've already messed it up, I think. Tunetki, and I watched videos, and like you said, I don't remember who said it. Might have been Sean or James. And you're right. We do have a lot of guys who play on the left wing, and he's, seemingly definitely a left winger from everything that I watched. Has anybody seen him in action outside of YouTube clips? I've never seen them play, and it's tough to tell anything from YouTube.
No full games. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here. So
he's played for a lot of teams. Yeah.
Yeah, he has. Just listening in his interview.
He was at Bodo Glimt for a bit.
Yep. So
I guess he's Norwegian, or he grew up in Norway, but Tunisian descent.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, he seems like he wants to be there.
Yeah.
And then like the Iheanacho signing on whatever, that was even this week. It was not even on Sunday. I don't know. That those kind of signings just feel lazy to me. Like it's like we needed to do something, so we got one of Brendan's old guys, and like, and I don't know. And the guy who's hardly played, you know, and probably done even less when he's been on the pitch lately. So it's going to be I don't know. I think that's a hard sell to the fan base that is a good move, and hopefully he proves everyone wrong. But I don't know. I'm not feeling it right now.
Yeah, I wonder if that means at all that Dyson's going to play a lot through the middle, being that I don't know. Just I just keep going back to the lack of like a functional right winger. Not to take anything away from Jamesy, but I mean he's an impact player at this point. But yeah, but yeah, I wanted to go back to the point of that you were asking about, you know, Brendan intentionally trying to, you know, send a message to the board by leaving these players out. That would be idiotic in my mind. But what I think is more, not idiotic, but just kind of really bizarre is what he's saying, or what he said for weeks leading up to the transfer deadline about needing players in specific positions and basically begging the board to get these done. And then he comes out, I don't know, I think it was like right before the deadline, but you know, he's saying, oh, you know, the board bleeds, you know, they bleed for Celtic and all this bullshit. Like I'm not really sure like which one is it here, because you're basically, you know, coding all this language saying that I'm not getting what I need to be successful, and basically blaming them. But then you're also, on the other hand, saying that they're doing a great job and they'll do anything for Celtic. Well, that's obviously not true. And that's not what he believes. And you know, this doublespeak that from him is really starting to get quite annoying. At this point, why not endear yourselves to the fans who already know what the deal is here, and just be like, look, this is I'm a lame duck. I'm going to throw everybody whose you know, fault this is under the bus. I'm just going to go hog wild. I mean, I know that's ridiculous, but I mean, wouldn't it be great if if he would just be like, look, my hands are tied because, you know, our operations here are dysfunctional. We had to completely flush down the toilet 40 million. Now he has to take some of the credit for that by losing in the championship qualifiers, but you had greater than 6 months, 8 months to get replacements for Kyogo and Kuhn. You publicly come out and say nobody else can be sold until specifically Ida. Nobody else he can't be sold until we bring somebody in, and then the board goes and sells him. Like I just don't like this whole, like he needs to start sticking up for himself if he's not part of the problem.
So there was reporting today, I think it was Seltzer here, on the Dolberg negotiations. So the fun part, and I say fun in quotes because it's horrible, but is that we're now getting other clubs talking to media types, you know, whether it was Go Ahead Eagles or, you know, there's been multiple like director of football types that have been talking, agents, ex-players. You know, some of us have heard some of these stories that are, you know, second hand, so you don't want to tell them out in public on a show, for example. But I've heard deals getting blown up in the past last second, a certain controlling shareholder coming in and, blowing up something that had been agreed to by all parties involved and trying to renegotiate a deal after it was basically done, that kind of thing. So this none of this stuff is new, but the reporting this today was that I think we went in at like 4 million or 4.5 million for Dolberg on Monday morning, knowing that their asking price was 8.5. So to your point, Sean Finn, I mean, this is within the context of what you just said about what the manager said about Ida not being able to go, him having been down in Swansea, been told to come back, not being in the game squad even. I mean, it is Mickey Mouse bullshit. I mean, this is just amateur hour incompetent nonsense to go in with that bid in that circumstance. And I think it was 3 bids they made, putzing around, pussyfooting around with the clock ticking, and all the stuff that went on at Ajax transpired, and they swoop in and are able to take the deal. So that could have been closed anytime on Friday, anytime on Saturday. If you paid, 8 million, 8.5, the guy likely would have signed because he didn't have Ajax as an option. The events that transpired that led him back to Ajax had not occurred then. So it would have been signed, sealed, and delivered potentially if you closed the freaking deal. So that's the kind of stuff, okay, if that's in June or July, maybe, okay, that's what happens. You go to the next guy on the list. But given the circumstances of what was unfolding, they just, they can't care.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't care enough that if it goes wrong, we'll sort it out. Because, I mean, where were they going to pivot to? It's the deadline, Dev, and you're within, I mean, at that point, you're talking within 12 hours of the deadline, and needing like 3 or 4 other players. So, I mean, it's nuts, that degree of incompetence. It just blows the mind that that's how business is trying to be conducted. But again, if you hear some of these stories, this is not the first time. I mean, this might be the worst example or one of the worst examples, but the way that they've conducted business in the past, I mean, it's at some point you start worrying about reputational risk in the industry and, not being able to get players because agents tell them not to go there. I mean, if I was an agent, the way that Celtic have been forcing players not to leave and basically saying, well, we're coming to us, we'll develop you, give you a platform to access, you're right on the doorstep of the English Premier League. I mean, how many guys are we going to screw over and keep them years past when they should have left? I mean, we're 2 years past when Hatate probably should have left. Carter Vickers should have been gone probably at least a season ago. I'm just talking about career-wise. If you're looking at Celtic as a platform to move your career to get that big payday, if you're, these guys aren't Celtic guys. They're this is a career for them.
Well, look at what happened to Yang. That's criminal. Criminal.
Some of the stuff I heard on deadline day, as far as what went on, is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just to the point where, again, if I was an agent or a player, I would never deal with somebody like that again. Some of the stuff that they pulled.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
it's
almost
absolute garbage.
Almost happened to Ito too. Like imagine if he ended up having to come back to the club after going, it would have been a disaster. Like how do you let that happen? It's maddening. But yeah, that kind of takes us to like a bunch of the CSCs and kind of Celtic media put out a few statements. We'll put out the one here. So like this season, I feel like has been, I don't know. I think the fans are rightfully riled up and, expressing a lot of doubts with the board. I know, like, I had my protest of canceling my Celtic TV after we lost on, like, pretty much within 3 minutes after we lost on penalties, after Maeda missed the last penalty against Kairat. Like, I was done, and I said I wasn't going to watch Europa League, which is probably a lie. But you could see it, and then just go into like the North Curve put out a statement that a bunch of Celtic supporters clubs and other, Celtic podcasts and media like signed on to. Like, so it's, I don't know, like, but does this have any effect? I don't know, Chris. Do you think it has any effect on anything?
I mean, what else are we gonna do?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, like for me, Celtic is much more about other supporters and more about the support than it ever was about the football club, right? So for me, like my fellow supporters are going to wage whatever protests they can, however they can, and I'm going to support that. I'm not going to support whatever the board is doing. I'm not going to, there has to be accountability for why we are in the shape that we're in. Like, we went into the transfer window the champions of Scotland, right? And we've got players and we've got money in the bank and there's this, that, and the other. And you're going to tell me on deadline day you pulled the kind of shenanigans that we pulled, and you're not going to get the players or the same kind of quality because you go in like James said on deadline day and you're going to put a £4 million or €4 million bid on Dolberg, and then knowing that his price was 8 million euros or whatever. Come on, it's ridiculous to say this, but like as supporters of this club and isolated as we are here in North America, what can I do about it? I can sign on to this petition. That's about the best I can do. I cannot spend money with the club. That's about the best I can do. But I mean, like, I didn't cancel my Celtic TV subscription. That's how I watch. So I mean, it does get to a point, especially for supporters that aren't in, that make it to matches every match. That I don't know how they are supposed to be upset. Like,
what?
Right?
Yeah.
I
So
mean, that's the issue.
I 100% agree with you, and I understand what you're saying. I think what needs to happen is that there's already a groundswell and a grassroots coming together of a lot of different aspects of the Celtic world over there, here, and apparently there's going to be a meeting with Michael Nicholson on Friday to basically get some answers from him. I don't know how that's going to go, but what I do really feel needs to happen is this just didn't start this year. This has been for as long as I can remember. And how much Champions League money did we flush down the toilet by not being able to qualify? We haven't qualified in what, five or 7 times since, like, for a long time. Sure, we got the free pass the past couple of years, but we haven't been able to qualify. So, like, that just papered over the cracks. And what usually happens when things are going well and people kind of forget about what's really happening and bubbling out from underground is what needs to happen now is there needs to be sustained pressure no matter what happens on the pitch to and calling out, embarrassing the people that are in these positions of power, and holding them accountable no matter what happens on the pitch, not just when things are going bad for us. And because that is the only, I think, tangible way that we're going to be able to at least have a chance to affect change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I agree with that.
yeah. So it's going to be tough. I think.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
And I agree with everything that you said. I think that this very specific circumstance here, I've been using the Jerry Jones analog for the Dallas Cowboys and how he's completely wrecked that sporting franchise in the NFL. Not on a business perspective, they've done supremely well, on the bottom line, but on the field, they've become an irrelevancy. And I'm not suggesting that's anywhere near where Celtic are, obviously, other than in Europe, where we have been an irrelevancy for 2 decades now. But if you go back to an interview that Andrew Smith, who's at Celtic Underground now, but who had written at the Celtic View and had been a professional journalist, he was on Graham Spears' podcast back in May, I think, and basically did a recounting of an interview he did with Dermot Desmond back when he was at the club. And basically Desmond was up front that he's the man, he's the one in control, but he does not want the social consequences of that control. He does not want to be at the match and having to deal, I'm not suggesting he said this, but I'm kind of paraphrasing what I took away from it. He doesn't want to be with the commoners. He doesn't want to deal with the punter, so basically Peter Lawwell was his human shield to that degree, in taking all of the crap, where, it's been Desmond who's really set this culture and set the policy. And it seems, again, from what I've heard, increasingly been directly involved in transfers, at a much higher degree. I mean, he'd always been involved to a certain degree, but now it's been, since Lawwell, stepped down from CEO, it's apparently been a lot more. So how do you make that guy uncomfortable? Because he's never at the games. I mean, are people going to fly over to Ireland and picket his golf hole when he's golfing with Rory McIlroy? I mean, I don't know. Are they going to go to Barbados and picket his resorts? And I'm not suggesting anyone do any of that, by the way. I'm just saying that, that he's the type of guy. It's not going to be easy to make him uncomfortable. And when there was a season when there was a level of, the shark throwing and everything else that was going on, he didn't back down. He doubled down and basically said, "Get it right up you. I'm letting Neil Lennon run this fucker right into the toilet. And we're not only going to do that, we're going to go to Dubai in the middle of a pandemic and take this shit right off the rails."
Yeah. But
right? Because we had the audacity to tell him he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing collectively.
But I don't really remember it being so much pointedly directed at him.
And that's good.
And I think that's what's changing now.
I agree.
So,
we'll
it was
we'll see how
Lawwell took the fall for anything. It was always Lawwell. It was never Desmond. Now people, because Nicholson is seemingly kind of, I don't know. He's just
he's an administrator. He's an administrator.
Yeah, right. But but people are really starting to the larger support are really starting to get more wise to, hey, what is really going on here? And that's starting to point the finger at Dermot Desmond.
And that's, if you look at the corporate governance, everything that's been set up has been set up. I've been saying, that's why I used the Jerry Jones analogy. It's not because, because Jerry's like a media whore, so it's completely different in that way. But he basically operates it as a pseudo family business, even though it's an LLC. So while I sympathize and I'm directionally in agreement with the letter that was put out today, I'm skeptical that it's really going to do much, because I think, the way that this theoretically could happen is if there's a legal move because he's operating something as a family office or family business as a non-executive director. But outside of that, it's really going to come down to whether he decides that he wants to give up that control, or somehow people can accumulate enough shares or convince one of the other major shareholders to start causing some noise in the boardroom. But, he's specifically built this to isolate himself and to protect himself. So I don't know. But make it uncomfortable. That's my view has been, say the name, right? Or at least a controlling shareholder. Apparently he's a fairly litigious person. So inside the UK, sue me in America, Dermy.
Yeah.
Come have some. But, in the UK, I get it. Like if I'm in Ireland, UK, billionaire is litigious and, is going to file a lawsuit against me. I'd be scared too as a journalist or anyone else. But yeah, it's let's stop using the board. It's not the board.
Yeah, we've talked about that the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's not Peter Lawwell. It's one guy,
right?
And okay, suck it up, Buttercup. Take the responsibility for what's actually going on here.
Yeah, well, that's we've talked about that the last few weeks. So and that's I kind of have included Dermot in the board, and that's probably incorrect, and he probably needs to be separated from that to have his own criticism, like hit straight at him, as opposed to at this amorphous thing that is the board. That what I mean. That it almost makes it.
But he also has a coalition that is giving him that power. He doesn't have the percentage power, but just by himself.
Yeah, we don't know for sure on that actually. So there's 17% that's registered through, I think it's Mellon. And there's, to my understanding, and I've talked to a couple of people, there's no look through as far as transparency of who owns those shares. Because Mellon's just a huge custodian. So could that be his kids? Could it be his twin uncle? Who knows? Because that 17 plus his 34 would, I can do that math. That would get him up over the threshold. But again, I take your point, Sean. But that's where when we have this kind of vacuum of detail, we can't know some of the specifics.
Right.
Maybe there's something going on here that we just don't know.
Yeah. And there's such a lack of communication from anybody in any position of power outside of the manager that it makes it impossible to, you really got to dig to figure out who's responsible. Anything.
That's why, again, I've kept up with this family business thing. It's like no one wants to piss off the old man and get written out of the will.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So everyone's in this work environment. That's why I have a lot of empathy for the people working at Celtic, people in recruitment. And you can't tell me that the people that they have in the recruitment staff sit there with their thumbs up their asses for 12 months out of the year. Right. They're obviously doing the work. They're obviously creating the reports. They're obviously profiling players, regardless of what, criticisms or not as far as the level, but they're doing it and it's not manifesting in players getting signed. So what kind of job satisfaction is that? You do all this work product, spending all your time, and then they take it and light it on fire and don't, do nothing with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I because we don't know who's actually doing what and who's responsible other than this one person. Like I said, that they're all kind of feeding that dysfunctional culture because of, when the patriarch's not too swift in what he's doing, and runs it with a heavy hand, that can lead to really bad incentives.
Agreed. Well, let's try to turn things more positive.
Derek McInnes is screwing. Derek McInnes is going to overwhelm Tony Bloom. We can cheer that up with that. That's funny to watch. Tony Bloom's finally met his match.
So this is our first time having James on, and every time we've had somebody new on, like I said at the beginning, this is our 10th episode. And that's kind of part of what we're trying to do, focusing on the North American side of things. And there's I feel like each one of us has a story as to, how we got involved and how your kind of feelings for Celtic grew over the years. James, what was your start in Celtic?
Birth, or I guess insemination would have been the first part. So my mother was born and raised in Clydebank and emigrated to the U.S. when she was 19 and met my dad. So she stayed, and my parents were very working class, and so there wasn't a lot of money. The excitement of paying for long distance. People remember in the '80s how expensive long distance was, especially international long distance. So getting on the phone to talk to a granny, and a little bit before he passed away, my grandfather, and not know what the hell they were saying over the phone when I was a little kid was basically the involvement. But in the late '90s, my mother's uncle, my mother's brother, my uncle started. He was the first family member to like come visit, and I had been over 3 times as a child for a week or two at a time. But he started to make it a annual thing. So I spent a lot of time with him, got to be very close with him. And one of the things that we really bonded over was soccer at the time. And because I'm a sports junkie, like very much been a huge part of my life since I was a young kid. So I had played soccer as up until high school. Liked soccer, but liked the World Cup and that kind of stuff. But I wasn't like a junkie. And then he really started to get me into it, talking about Celtic. What are these cups, and understanding the difference between the Country Cup, the League Cup, and this European Cup, and all this. Every year I'd have to get a refresher on what the hell's going on. And then I went to my first game. Was a quarterfinal in the Scottish Cup. It was Derby at Celtic Park in March of 2004, and then that was me hooked. Now in those days, as you guys may know, but it was, and I was building a business at the time, working insane hours, so I wasn't eating, breathing, and sleeping it probably until about 2012 is when I was, starting to watch more games. I'd been basically just following online kind of results, the table, and reading BBC, game reports, that kind of thing, up until I'd say 2012. And then my big story was I was actually at Jack Dempsey's. I was in New York. I was in Manhattan for business at a Bloomberg conference. I was presenting at a Bloomberg conference, and went to the game. It was snowing, and I walk up the stairs. This was November of 2012, and Billy Connolly was sitting right at the top of the stairs. And so I'm like, oh my God. And I go back to the bar, and it was the Barcelona game.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I didn't bug him, but seeing Billy Connolly and then almost having my leg broke because when the first goal went in, the header by what's his name?
Wanyama.
Yeah, Wanyama. At the back post. The guy next to me jumped up, and his huge wood bar stool, like they used to have upstairs at Jack Dempsey's, slammed right into my leg. And it was horrible. But anyway, so that was from then on, became much more of a lifestyle thing. And then I came across Alan Morrison's Celtic by Numbers blog back in probably 2017, 16, 17. It was like just a passive reader. Hadn't gotten into stats at all. I have a background in analytics and like quant stuff and markets. And, I used to memorize baseball cards as a kid, that kind of stuff. So all this stuff was like part of my DNA anyway. And then from that, I just kind of started learning about it. And then the whole Scott Brown thing obsession happened. So, aging curves are a thing, and had to, talk about that a lot. But so that's kind of the origin story.
Okay, so you got the from birth kind of. You were born.
Yeah, I grew up with two pennants over my bed, not knowing what they were really about. From I think 76, they were in my son's room now, but 76, 77 season. My grandfather had given to me when I was over in 1980 as a 5-year-old. So
cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you ever get your so your kids are college age then? Do they watch with you at all, or?
You know what? Some my son Jack, he and I went to the DC game and then down at Chapel Hill last summer. We had a great time. It's funny. This generation. I talked to other fathers and like our friend groups and our our kids' parents and stuff, their friends' parents, and it's just this generation doesn't sit down and watch games like Red Zone channel because they have fantasy teams in the NFL. But to sit down and watch like a 2-3 hour sporting event, I don't know. I don't know too many teenagers that are doing that these days. So they'll kind of pass through when I'm watching and watch for a little bit and say what's going on and hear me yelling or something, and then that's about it. So we'll see. Maybe they'll grow into it still.
Yeah, that's mine too. My kids are a sophomore in college and a senior in high school, and I'm struggling to get them to, but they're not really into sports. But both of them have Celtic flags hanging up in their rooms and Celtic scarves. I think they like the identity of it all, and they used to come to the CSC with me in the mornings and stuff a few times. But like you said, it's hard to get them to sit down and watch even a half of a match, not even a whole match. But my younger son is constantly pressuring me. He's like, I want to be on your podcast. I'm like, sit down and watch a few games with me, and then we'll talk. And he's like, nah, I'm good. Still can't get him to do it. So
it was my daughter was a sophomore last year at Pitt, and she called me. She had not too long before that had set up a Twitter account, so she followed me on Twitter, and she mostly pop stars, Taylor Swift, whatever she's following, and somehow the algorithm had picked up something from what was going on with me on Twitter. And she's like, Dad, you got canceled. What? She calls me like in a phrase, like, you got canceled. What happened? So this was when I had my fun comment about Rangers winning the midfield battle last year in the September the first derby, and I guess it went so kind of crazy that that was the first time she was aware that I was up to all this nonsense. Like she kind of heard it, you know what I mean? Like, oh, Dad does this stuff and whatever. And then because she saw it on Twitter, it was real for some reason.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's a good story.
Well, then she asked me, why do they keep calling you a specky virgin? Don't they know? Don't they know that you have kids? I'm like, well,
Oh, that's awesome.
Dad, are we adopted?
Yeah, that's exactly.
All right. Well, I think this has definitely been our longest show, so I guess we'll try and wrap things up. I think tomorrow morning, actually, on the channel, they're doing a recorded show with Chicago CSC. I know,
cool.
like Gavin and the guys, they did it with you, Sean. I think on like international weeks when there's not games to talk about, they'll try to do. And it's been a few. I know they've done Dallas, they've done Pittsburgh, Detroit. Can't think of.
I think they did Cleveland.
Yeah. So I'll try to wake up early tomorrow. It's like 6 a.m. our time. So there's a few times where I'm up and I'll sit out on the deck listening to it. So hopefully Paul's on. We've had Paul from their CSC on a couple times. So
but before we go, I just have to say, Chris, this has been an honor because I'm a fanboy going back to the Smell the Glove days.
Okay. All right. The pleasure's all mine. You speak a lot better than I do. So
all the crackled bad feeds on Spreaker with Doc and Paul.
Oh,
remember those days like they were yesterday.
Yeah.
I used to love that. That's what we're trying to get. I want to get going back even further to Graham show, Beyond the Waves. I'm trying to get Graham to come on, but he has not been responsive to and I would credit Graham with a lot because that like you said, Jane, and I'm starting back up, like 2012 was kind of the time I got into Celtic more. Like I was a fan, but like you said, it was like checking scores. But then once you got into like the figuring out the social media and stuff that was going on and listening to the podcasts and stuff, that's what got you hooked. Like, and like Graham and Dr. J was on that, and Yampi, and he's another guy I'm trying to find. So all those old names, like those podcasts, and Chris, like you with Smell the Glove and Celtic Dreams on Friday nights, and then you doing the music show on Sunday. Like all that stuff is so connecting to the club, and like I just love it.
Well, that's what I was trying to say earlier about, like, you know, the team itself is one thing, and talking about, you know, the running of the football club is another thing. But like, the reason I support Celtic has nothing to do with any of that. Like, it has everything to do with, you know, all the people I've met, all of the Celtic experiences that I've had, and I mean, it's just it's so much more than that, and to get that across, when you have things that you know don't always make a very positive spin on things, like this is what I fall back on, is that I can talk to James that I've never met, you know, that I remember that I've met in person or whatever, and we share something in common that, you know, 99.9% of the population of the U.S. has no idea about, and that bond is bigger than anything that I could ever hope for. So that's all I meant. So anyway,
100%.
Amen.
Yeah, I think that's how we a good way to wrap it up tonight. We'll be back again next week. Still trying to figure out who we're gonna have. People backed out on me, so so we'll put that out on social media once we have it. But it's good talking to you guys. James, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully we can get you on again. Get on again. It's always fun talking Celtic and being able to talk through the issues and then kind of get back to a positive place at the end. Always works. So, all right, boys. Hail. We'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.